So Bernie Sanders is crushing it, okay? Bernie Sanders crushed it on Monday, March 21st, with the Democrats abroad. Over 170 countries, Americans all across the world sided with Bernie Sanders on a 69% to 31% margin. Then Bernie Sanders crushed it on Tuesday, March 22nd. He lost to Arizona, but only 44 to 33 in the delegate count, and he won Utah and Idaho, not just barely, but he crushed it. Again, crushed it in Utah and Idaho by 70 to 80% margins. And then he goes on Saturday and crushes it on Saturday, March 27th, sweeping Hillary by overwhelming margins in 3 U.S. states, Hawaii, Alaska, and Washington State, with 70% plus of Washington's 101 delegates going to Bernie Sanders. So Bernie's on a tear. He's on a warpath. He's kicking ass, taking names. There's 22 more elections, more than 2 more months. He's going to win. There's 1,000. So what up, America? Where are we at on the delegate count? So I got a minute. Sarah Silverman right now, she's essentially saying that some things may change under a Bernie Sanders administration. Bernie needs about 1,000 more delegates to go to the 2026 magic number to be mathematically impossible for Hillary to win. He needs 1,000 more of the delegates out of the 1,900 delegates that are left in the 22 elections, and 2 more months, 22 more elections, still 1,800 to 1,900 more delegates to grab. Bernie needs to grab 60% of them. He's on his way. He's well on his way. If he does what he has been doing this past week, crushing it on Monday, crushing it on Tuesday, crushing it on Saturday, crushing it in Utah, crushing it in Idaho, crushing it in Hawaii, Alaska, Washington, Hawaii, which is a majority-minority country. There's more minorities than white people, right? Minorities. And then he'll fucking win. He's got this presidency in the bag. Bernie's got this presidency in. So Bernie Sanders got 69% of the Democrats abroad vote. Then he got 80 to 90% of the Utah vote. Then he got the 75% to 80% of the Idaho vote. The delegates. Arizona's 44-30. He lost, but, down by 14. The Utah and Idaho votes more than make up. So that Tuesday he was actually, he's on a roll. He's on a roll. He won the Democrats abroad election. Then he wins the Utah and Idaho election on March 22nd on the Tuesday, last Tuesday, a week ago. And then on Saturday, he won all 3 states. He swept her. And not just Alaska and Hawaii, a lot of times they want to say small states, but in Washington, too, Washington State, there's 101 delegates. Sanders is going to change a lot of things, under as president, but you don't have to worry. For all you billionaires and trillionaires and ultra-rich out there, you all could still be evil, greedy fucks. You still get to be evil, greedy fucks doing greedy, cutthroat, dog-eat-dog, greedy, evil fuck bullshit things. So don't worry, billionaires, you still get to be greedy, evil fucks, since democratic socialism means that capitalism will still be intact. Now, Donald Trump, I wanted to mention, he's a fascist. He is such a fucking fascist. Oh, my God. So Donald Trump is a fascist piece of shit, right? The Hitler-esque, very much banning. Let's talk about the Bernie Sanders numbers right now. Actually, Wikipedia is down. Wikipedia has got a table on it that has said what pledged delegates they have won. They have cited each one of the sources and has been pretty accurate, the most accurate out of all the tables out there, CNN and all that shit. They don't do a real good job. But Bernie Sanders is on a roll, and it leads me to believe that, he's fucking got this. He's the more popular candidate. He's right. He's got a conscience. But let's put the fact that he's been right on every turn of history aside. He is the more electable candidate. Poll after poll shows him beating the Republicans in the general election by greater points than Hillary. A lot of people don't like Hillary, and for good reasons. But for the last 5 elections, or 6 elections of the last 6 or 7, he's won. Bernie Sanders has won election after election, and where's the fucking media saying, exciting week for the Sanderistas, burners, political revolutionaries, and the poor, the righteous, the decent. Let's start off with Monday, March 21st, in the Democrats abroad portion of the Democratic presidential primary. So this would be a week ago, 8 days ago, March 21st, Monday, he beat the shit out of Hillary in the Democrats abroad, like just mopped the floor with her. Just beat the living shit, just beat the tar out of her, beat the piss out of her. She is just like, barely just hanging on. She probably should just pull the plug on her campaign and drop out, because clearly the people don't want you to become president. Unfortunately, political campaigns is about choosing the right candidate and not about choosing the best president. Just a good candidate. The best candidate is Bernie Sanders, so he's more electable and he would be a better president. He has a conscience, he's got a moral core, and he's been right. He's been right every fucking decade. Marched with MLK, got arrested for fighting against segregation. How many people could say that they got arrested fighting segregation? So here's the numbers on Monday, March 21st. Democrats abroad, Bernie Sanders just crushed her, 69 to 31%. So that's by 38 points, 39% to 31%. Just massacred her. More than 34,000 people participated, a 50% jump from 2008. So Bernie Sanders got about 24,000 votes, and Hillary got 11,000 votes. So 34,000 people throughout the world. Democrats abroad are your soldiers, your workers at the U.S. embassies, expatriates abroad. The Democrats abroad vote, which happened 8 days ago, came in from more than 170 countries. There is in-person voting at 153 voting centers in 38 different countries. So there was actually places for them to go vote, and voters could also submit their ballots by email, post office, or fax. So that's awesome. It's actually the voter turnout record was made with the Democrats abroad vote. More people voted in this Democrats abroad election than any other Democrats abroad presidential vote. So let's see, 34,570 ballots exactly from over 170 countries, which gives Bernie Sanders a 69% win to 31% over his Hillary. So he wins it on Monday, right? He wins Monday. Democrats abroad the whole. So on Monday we learned that the entire world wants Bernie Sanders. The entire world picked Bernie Sanders to become the next president of the United States. And not the whole world, but the Americans worldwide. So specifically the Americans abroad, the American Democrats abroad, right? The soldiers, U.S. embassy workers, expatriates, etc. So that's pretty good, right? Bernie Sanders gets the entire world's Americans to say that he's the best. Then on Tuesday, there was a lot of hype, and they focused it just on Arizona, but he crushed in Utah, crushed in Idaho. In Arizona, he lost, but not by as bad. It was 44 to 33. So he lost in Arizona, but the delegate was proportional. The delegate breakdown was proportional. So 44 delegates to 33 delegates is what happened in Arizona, and then 33 delegates in Utah and 23 delegates in Idaho were proportionally distributed. The delegate count was 26 to 6. So Bernie Sanders won 26 delegates of Utah. In Utah, 26 of the Democratic delegates, pledged delegates, the real delegates went to Bernie Sanders. So 26 went to Bernie, 6 went to Hillary. And so that's 70-80% Idaho. 17 delegates goes to Bernie Sanders. 5 goes to Hillary. Again, 75-80%. So he's winning by 80%, 75% margins. He won by 31 points, 69 to 31, right, for the Democrats abroad. And then on Saturday, sweet Saturday, this day is actually very exciting, because it essentially makes me believe that he's unstoppable. Bernie Sanders is unstoppable. He's the emerging candidate. He's more popular. He's more exciting. And he is righteous, and he's got a conscience. He's a good fucking man. He's a good guy. And so Bernie Sanders got 69% of the Democrats abroad vote. Then he got 80 to 90% of the Utah vote. Then he got the 75% to 80% of the Idaho vote. The delegates. Arizona's 44-30. He lost, but down by 14. The Utah and Idaho votes more than make up. So that Tuesday he was actually, he's on a roll. He won the Democratic Democrats abroad election. Then he wins the Utah and Idaho election on March 22nd on the last Tuesday, a week ago. And then on Saturday, he won all 3 states. He swept her. And not just Alaska and Hawaii. A lot of times they want to say small states, but in Washington, too. Washington State. There's 101 delegates, but, they haven't counted all the fucking delegates, so we only know about 34. 25 goes to Bernie, and then 9. But seriously, Trump, man, what a fascist. And, when it comes to fascism, there's people, I think political scientists wants to make it more convoluted, the definitions, and say, well, it's got to be like Nazi Germany or Mussolini fascism. And we need to have, the same definitions to our words if our words are going to have any meaning. And to me, a fascist is authoritarian, one who is willing to use violence, usually state violence, in order to achieve their means, their demands. And so if your idea needs violence to back it, then your idea isn't worth a grain of shit. So, okay, so the numbers, Alaska, 3 to 13, just 80 to 90%. It says actually he won 73% of the vote in Washington, 71% of the vote in Alaska, and 82% of the vote, 71% in Hawaii, 82% in Alaska. So, I mean, that's what happened last week, Monday. Democrats abroad come in, swept all across the world. World's Americans said Bernie Sanders should become president. Tuesday, you had Idaho and Utah say that Bernie Sanders should become president. And then Saturday, you had Hawaii, Alaska, and Washington. And Washington being the biggest one, 73%. They haven't counted all the delegate votes yet so far, which is sort of bullshit. So we only see 34 of the 101 delegated out when there's like 60 to 70 more. In Hawaii, he won 17 to 8 of the delegates, 71% of Hawaii's 25 delegates. He got 17, she got 8. He won 82% in Alaska of the 16 delegates there. 13 for him, 3 for her. She's too frigid. Hillary Clinton is too frigid for even Alaska. Wisconsin is coming up on February 5th, not today, but next Tuesday. Next Tuesday is Wisconsin. So there's still a whole bunch more Democratic primary to go. There's 22 more elections, so 22 more U.S. states and or territories need to go vote. Plenty of time. Here's how the scoreboard breaks down. And, well, this is without Saturday's results. So I got 26 to 928, but that's without Saturday. And so Bernie was down about 298, about 300. And then, I don't know, fuck them supers. It doesn't matter. The supers doesn't matter until the convention. If Washington has the problem right now where there's a politician that went against the Democratic pledged delegates, and they're saying, how are you going to fucking answer for that? The people wanted Bernie Sanders, and you're going to go against the people because you're an elitist prick. You're one of the fucking thieves of democracy. You're going to take our democracy away from us like the Electoral College does. The system is rigged. But there's a loophole. And Bernie Sanders thinks he has. So what does all this mean? He's got, let's see, so 2,026 is the magic number in pledged delegates. 4,051 is the total amount of pledged delegates, the Democratic delegates, that you can win with these primaries and caucuses. Bernie Sanders is down now about 230, so he gained 70 delegates. Over the Saturday, and probably at least 70 delegates. So he's down only by 230, was down by 300, so he's gaining on her. 230 might sound like a lot, but when you look at the side-by-side, you have, 1,200 to 900 delegates, 1,200 to 900, maybe 1,300 to 1,000. So there's essentially 1,800 1,900 delegates are still left in total. 22 elections are still up. So there's plenty of time for way more wins. The new delegate count, I couldn't actually get a specific amount on it because Wikipedia's table is down. I've been on Wikipedia's table the whole time. Here we have the fucking Google. It shows the superdelegates, which is bullshit because the superdelegates controls the narrative to make it seem like Hillary is the inevitable winner. All the corporate media fucking does it. It's fucking incredible. And so we should be talking to each other. And it is on us. There should be an after Bernie group. What happens after Bernie? Whether he wins the presidential election, he says that he still needs us to make sure he gets his legislation passed. And if he loses, what? And he tells us to vote for Hillary. Where is this momentum going to go? Like, I don't. Even if he concedes and goes and tells us to vote for Hillary, I can't do it. I can't do it. And so some other candidate has to emerge and become viable, or we don't have a fucking candidate. We don't have anybody to vote for or to choose. So where do we? Okay, so Google has kind of similar numbers, but this is I had mine up before Saturday, so maybe they didn't do Saturday either. They got 1,243 to 975, which is what 250 or so, right? Yeah. So it would be 25 plus 243, which is 68. So 268 is what they're showing. So anyways, it doesn't matter. I think it does matter, but I think that this fuzzy math that everybody's been using has to do with the fucking supers delegates, the delegate process. In Washington, there's 3-tier process. So the county delegates vote, then the state delegates, the state convention, and then it goes to the national convention. So we don't actually know who wins any of these delegates until the state convention happens. But he's down by 230 votes. Plenty more time. How much more time? Let me explain. 22 more elections. 1,800. Sanders says that he sees a pathway. It's not just his ego. There is clearly a pathway. There's 2,200 delegates have been pledged so far. So about 1,800 to 1,900 delegates are still out there. So 1,900 delegates. He just needs to win more than 230 of those delegates than her. And then the magic number is 2026. So if you just use that as the sort of the staple or the standard bearer, sort of the control, right? So 2026. Well, that means that Hillary still needs to get 700 to 800 more, and Bernie Sanders needs to get 1,000 to 1,100 more. And so that means he just needs to catch up on her more. He needs to crush her in every single one of these elections, and it looks like he's going to do that. It looks like he's already won the fucking election. Bernie Sanders is our president, or I fucking hope so. It looks very... Long story short, I hope we have essentially 1,800 to 1,900 delegates left to get, 22 more elections, and Wisconsin is next Tuesday, February 5th. June 7th is when 6 U.S. states, including California, vote. June 14th is just when Washington, D.C. votes. So we've got at least until June 7th, which is 2 months and 9 days away. And at the most, this will go on 2 months and 16 days if June 14th is necessary if we need the D.C. elections, which, if we're lucky, it'd be fucking exciting that it comes all the way down to D.C. And D.C. votes in the Democratic primary, but they don't actually... they don't get a vote. They don't have representation. There's something funky with their voting system. They can't vote on the president, I think, and they don't have any representation in Congress. So they're not a state. They're just the land the capital sits on, which means no representation. It's the capital of the free world. Sorry for being a little windy, a little wordy, but essentially I just want to, 1,800 to 1,900 more delegates left, 22 more elections. And you got 2 months at least, maybe 9 days or 16 days. So 2 more months of, this primary caucus fun, right? This Democratic presidential fun. And I don't know, Trump, I still think Trump is such a fucking fascist, man. I don't know, it just pisses me off. So the Bernie Sanders, he's won 15 U.S. states so far. He's won 928 delegates so far. So in terms of electability, like I already made this argument before, but he's more electable, but he's also the better fucking president, which should be, more important. Hillary, there's a Watergate controversy, which I want to actually check out. Whitewater, cattle futures, the Clinton Foundation, Libya overthrown government. Couple more things. The Clinton Foundation has been taking money from, the United Emirates and some of these other countries. So who are they beholden to? Are they beholden to the money? There's a Vince Foster suicide. Some guy listed all this stuff. I do want to check some of them. She sells out to Goldman Sachs. She's selling out to Wall Street and the corporations. Email scandal. So it might come out, but I think who gives a shit? There's enough scandals here that will continue to plague her. And just look at her record. I think even if you just want to look at her policy, the overthrow of Honduras, the coup d'etat in Honduras, which was by America, man. We're fucking still doing that shit. CIA, fucking Kissinger, apprentice, bullshit. The indigenous leader, a popular indigenous leader was assassinated, great by fucking Hillary Clinton there. and then Ukraine and Syria and what was the big one? The Democrats, American Democrats abroad, 13% come out of the UK, 9.5% came out of Canada, 8.4% came out of Germany, 8.4% came out of France, 4.93% comes out of Spain. Sanders won all 5 of those: Spain, France, Germany, Canada, UK. So the American Democrats in those countries are in favor of Bernie Sanders over Hillary Clinton. Hillary won Dominican Republic, Nigeria, Singapore, and Afghanistan. 7 Americans voted. In Nigeria, 5 Americans total voted. Other countries are Australia, Chile, Cambodia, Czech Republic, New Zealand, Panama, Russia, and Vietnam. And so that's the Democrats abroad. So, the whole fucking world are in favor of Bernie Sanders. And Hillary should drop out. She is a shitty candidate. She's not a good candidate or a good person. She doesn't have a conscience. With Watergate and with Nixon and a Bernie Goldwater girl. Are you kidding? A fucking Goldwater